Braxcast time once again, guys. This is the 78th episode of the Braxcast, and this is going to be a fun one. Of course, we don't have any major announcements other than the Definitive Isom collection, although this is definitely a much more toned down collection since it is just the Isom omnibus, and of course we had the years 1 through 3 omnibus and the Rippaverse Trinity, but I figure might as well talk about it because there's one really exciting announcement, the Dokkan card binder. But first I want to show off the soft cover for the Definitive Isom Volume 1. This is of course about 352 pages collecting the entire ill-advised arc. That's Isom 1 through 3, and I believe this is featuring a fully remastered Isom 2, and of course Isom 3 is not one that needs to be remastered since Sebastian Chang's colorist, and of course Isom 1 was redone with Sebastian Chang on colors. Isom 2 is the only one that you can only get with Gabe El-Taib's original coloring, but it does seem like, to my knowledge, Isom 2 is going to be touched up a little bit in both of the omnibuses that it's going to be featured in that year's 1 through 3 omnibus along with this Definitive Isom. But this is, of course, the soft cover by Eric Nienatowski and colored by Carbon Graphics. This is certainly the one that I am going to be getting since it's cheaper. Definitely going to get it just to show it off. It's a nice little collector's thing to have, and this is certainly going to be the way they're going to collect Isom in these larger collections is the Definitive Isom. So of course you got the Definitive Isom Volume 1, you'll have Volume 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So not having it be Isom ill-advised is a bit of a missed opportunity, but this is of course the way to have it more consistent on the bookshelf when there's like 20 issues of Isom and it's collected across maybe 3 of these Definitive Isom volumes, right? I think that's a pretty smart move to do. And of course, we do have the hardcover as well, if I can get it, and I can. It is the hardcover by Kanan White, colored by Candace Han, who of course was the colorist on Great War Separation #1. Of course, Kanan is not only the art director for the Rippaverse, he's a legendary cover artist for the Rippaverse as well. He did, Isom 1 cover A, which is probably, if you see a Rippaverse cover, that is the one that you see. Isom 1 cover A. And of course, he's the artist for Saoirse, and he's done a lot of work for the Rippaverse, posters, t-shirt art, the art for the short boxes is basically all him. He's done a lot of art for the Rippaverse, so him having this cover that really does feel indicative of the style, the layout of the Isom 1 cover A feels really fantastic. Of course, you got Isom very bold there, then you've got a bunch of back shots. So this is a really good drawing. And then, of course, it's got the cross layout as well, which if you read Isom 3 especially, you know why the cross is important to the character of Isom, which is a really cool thing to see. But this is a fantastic cover, fantastic collections, made about $25,000 or so. So I think the community is a bit omnibused out, and of course a lot of people already have all of these books, so it's not the most necessary thing to pick up books that you already have in a collection that you already have, especially if you spent your spending money on the omnibus collection, because those omnibuses were definitely more expensive than this because they're over 1,300 pages. They have a lot of content associated with them. But the most exciting thing with this collection, the Definitive Isom collection, is not necessarily the Isom collection, the Definitive Isom books, but it's the Dokkan card binder. This is something the community has been asking for basically ever since the Dokkan cards came out. Certainly something I'm really excited for. Of course, I think Kanan White is doing the art for this, and Eric had been talking about this. So this is going to be a binder that's limited in quantity, about 670 units, and each one of these can hold about 400 cards. It's 50 pages, 8 to a page, 4 front, 4 back, which the unfortunate thing is that you might not have it be able, if you stock it up completely with cards, you might not be able to see the backs, but you'll probably be able to have, if you go and you skip a page, so you have it like 200, you'll be able to see the backs as well, because the backs are really important. If you've watched Braxcast, you've watched me cover all the Dokkan cards, and you would know that. But still, 200 cards to hold is a really big thing, since these sets were going to be at the 5th set, and we're not even that 5th set of Dokkan cards will basically get us to, I'm not sure if it'll get us halfway to 100 even. So there's still a lot of cards. If you want to stock it up completely, you can have 400. But this is a really epic thing. This is one that's limited in quantity. I do hope they keep the same format and they just have one where that's an evergreen product where they make like 1,000 of them and then they just keep hold of them and then they sell them as people want them, because this is something that people are going to want for as long as the Dokkan cards are in distribution, or as long as Dokkan cards remain a thing, and I hope they remain a thing for the entirety of the Rippaverse. So definitely ought to have one that stays in as an evergreen product that's simpler, more indicative of probably the art that they settled on with the Dokkan cards boxes that they actually get shipped in when you get them. If I had the Dokkan cards on me, but you've seen that box, the black card with just Dokkan on the front with the orbs surrounding. I think that would be a fantastic thing, and then just have like Rippaverse comics on the back as like the evergreen version of this, and just have this be the special limited edition for the fans who got in on the ground floor. Certainly I think that's going to be the case, or hopefully that is the case, but certainly I have got one of these. I will be showing them off, showing how the cards fit in the binder when I do get this. Really, really fantastic stuff to see. And this is, like I said, something the fans really wanted Rippaverse to do, and they have delivered on this. And this is certainly going to be a really cool thing to see. I'm really excited to get my hands on this one. I'm really excited that my Dokkan cards have a better home than the cardboard box. But another exciting thing is that since Norfrica Glorious Death, the #1 campaign, hit over 5,000 books sold, that was a milestone for us to get the original concept art of Norfrica. This is, of course, going to be narrated by Jen and Sylvia Saska, with the concept art being by Marcos Rios, and of course these designs being a collaboration between Marcos Rios and Eric July. And this is probably going to be a similar format to the original concept art of Isom, which is, of course, the first concept art the Rippaverse ever did, and that launched with Isom #1. I have reviewed that in an episode of Braxcast, all 16 pages, and then I gave away that book, which is a really fun thing that I did. But this is certainly going to be a really fun one to have as well, to go over, to review, just to read through it and see what made Eric's mind tick with Norfrica, and see the Saska's commentary on that as well. But this is definitely a fun one. Really happy that we hit that milestone, of course. Nearly 6,000 books sold, over $250,000 on the collection for Norfrica Glorious Death. Certainly means that the fans are resonating with Norfrica, and of course, people love love Glorious Death. The song by Eric July and Dan Vasquez has been really much a hit with the fans. Of course, I did chart the billboards, and I think we got another milestone off of that. We've got the cassette tape, we've got the records, we've got a lot of cool stuff associated with Norfrica. I'm sure there's only going to be more cool stuff as this series keeps on going, since this is going to be a limited series. I'm thinking about 4 issues, though I don't have that confirmed in stone. Of course, this first issue is going to be dealing with Volodon's path with Asgarth and Jotunheimel. So really interesting stuff. Love the Norse mythology. Can't wait to see how the African mythology plays into that. Hopefully that'll be the second issue. The first issue will focus on Volodon. The second issue will focus on Takari. I think it's going to be that'd be a really cool way to go about it. And of course, the Revolver Rick interview in Rippazine #4 really made me more hyped for Norfrica Glorious Death, because that was him interviewing Norfrica, and they've got a lot of very interesting things to say. So the whole, the supernatural, mythological stuff being mixed in with them being, in a metal band and touring around, not Flores Park, the southern United States, or what used to be the United States, of course, Greater Florida, Texas, and I think Greater Florida and Texas is like the southern United States. But anyways, really cool thing to see. Really cool thing to see the fans responding well to Norfrica, and it's only going to get more exciting when we actually get this book in our hands and I can review it, and of course the fans can read it, and then we can learn more about the group Norfrica, because we do not know a lot about them, because we've only had one appearance of them in the very end of Isom #1. Got very little information off of that, and we've gotten, of course, the Dokkan cards for Volodon Takari in that very first deck. Basically no information after that. Of course, there's some very vague information in the lyrics of Glorious Death, because you read Isom #1 and you know their lyrics are in make-believe, so that alludes to what they'll do in their comic, but we don't know really much outside of that. And that's the fun thing, is finding out what happens and then wanting to know what happens next. But that is all I have for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of the Braxcast. Of course, had a really fun episode of Braxcast Live. I did get a little bit late in starting that one up, but Ginger Wolverine came on, had a fantastic conversation. Very appreciative that he took the time to have a little chat with me. Hopefully that happens again, and hopefully I can chat with a whole bunch of other people on Braxcast Live and do more interviews like I did with Jay Brown and Chuck Dixon and Andrew a bunch of times. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys. Again, hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Have a good weekend. Joker is out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.